Welcome everyone. Today's story is not just about English. It's about a voice that was trapped for years. It's about a young man who understood everything, but could say nothing. And by the end of this story, you will not just listen to James. You will see yourself in him. And maybe, just maybe, you will decide that your silence ends today. James was not bad at English. In fact, if you gave him a grammar test, he would pass easily. If you asked him to read a paragraph, he would read it clearly in his mind. If you played an English movie with subtitles, he understood almost every line. But when someone looked at him and said, "So, tell me about yourself," something strange happened. His throat tightened. His lips felt heavy. His tongue refused to move. His brain went blank. And he hated that feeling. He was 24 years old, working in a small office where English was required for meetings. Every day, he promised himself, "Today I will speak." And every day, when the moment came, he stayed silent. He watched others talk. He watched others laugh. He watched others express ideas confidently. And inside, he felt small. One evening, after another silent meeting, James went home and stood in front of the mirror. He looked into his own eyes and said softly, "Why can't I speak?" The answer didn't come from grammar. It didn't come from vocabulary. It came from something deeper. His mouth had never been trained to talk. James had spent years feeding his brain with English. He watched YouTube videos. He saved vocabulary lists. He followed English pages on social media. But he had never trained his mouth. He had never trained his tongue, his lips, his jaw, his breathing, his rhythm. He had learned English in his head, not in his muscles. That night changed everything. He made a decision. Not to learn more. Not to download another app. But to train his mouth. The next morning, James woke up earlier than usual. He locked his bedroom door. He stood in front of the mirror. He felt silly. He felt awkward. But he remembered something powerful. Fluency is not knowledge. Fluency is movement. He began with something simple. He rolled his lips slowly, making a soft buzzing sound. It felt strange. His lips were stiff. He stretched his tongue in and out. He opened and closed his jaw widely. He smiled exaggeratedly. He felt like a child playing. But something was happening. His mouth was waking up. Then he looked at himself and said slowly, "My name is James. I can speak English." The first time, his voice was weak. The second time, it was slightly stronger. The third time, he felt a tiny spark of confidence. He repeated it again and again. Slowly. Then normally. Then faster. My name is James. I can speak English. He realized something shocking. It wasn't that he didn't know English. It was that his mouth didn't know how to move fast enough. It was lazy. It was untrained. From that day, James created a 5-minute ritual. Every morning. No excuses. No skipping. 1 minute of warming up his mouth. 1 minute speaking in front of the mirror. 2 minutes of shadow speaking. 1 minute repeating a sentence in different speeds. Shadow speaking became his secret weapon. He would choose a short sentence from a podcast. He would listen carefully. Then immediately repeat it, matching the rhythm and tone. Not his version. The original rhythm. At first, he failed. He was too slow. He couldn't catch the speed. He stumbled. But he kept going. He reminded himself, this is not grammar. This is muscle training. Week 1 was uncomfortable. He felt embarrassed even though he was alone. Sometimes he laughed at himself. Sometimes he wanted to quit. But he remembered all the meetings where he stayed silent. He remembered the job interview he failed because he couldn't express himself. He remembered the friend he couldn't connect with. Silence had cost him enough. By the end of the second week, something small but powerful changed. His sentences began to flow slightly smoother. He stopped pausing between every word. Instead of saying, I am working on a project, he began to say, I'm working on a project. He discovered sound clusters. Before, he spoke like a robot. Word by word. Separate. Broken. Now he practiced blending words together. What are you doing? Became what are doing? I am going to became I'm gonna. Let me know became let me know. He practiced them like songs. Walking around his room, repeating let me know, let me know, let me know. He didn't care how silly it sounded. He cared about how it felt. And slowly, it felt natural. One night, he recorded himself speaking for the first time. He hated listening to it. His voice sounded unfamiliar. But instead of judging himself, he listened carefully. He focused on rhythm, on speed, on clarity, not on mistakes. He realized something powerful. Fluency was not about perfection. It was about comfort. James began adding emotion to his practice. Instead of saying, I'm happy to be here, in a flat voice, he said it with a smile. Then with excitement. Then with sarcasm. Then with anger. He felt his brain waking up. English was no longer a subject. It was expression. He stopped being a student. He became an actor. Every sentence became a mini performance. I can't believe this happened. He said it shocked. Then disappointed. Then thrilled. His voice grew stronger. His posture changed. His shoulders relaxed. His hands moved naturally. He noticed something fascinating. When he used his body, his words came faster. When he stood tall, his voice sounded clearer. When he smiled, his tone sounded warmer. He was training his brain and mouth together. A month passed. Then came the moment that tested everything. During a team meeting, his manager asked, "James, what do you think about this proposal?" His heart started beating faster. But this time, something was different. Instead of panic, he felt preparation. His mouth was ready. His brain was calm. He took a breath. Not a long, fearful breath. A controlled one. "I think it's a strong idea," he said smoothly. "But maybe we can improve the timeline." The words didn't break. His voice didn't disappear. He didn't translate in his head. He simply spoke. The room didn't go silent in shock. No one laughed. No one corrected him. They nodded. They responded. The conversation continued. But inside James, a revolution happened. For the first time, he felt the power of his own voice. That night, he stood in front of the mirror again. But this time, he didn't look confused. He looked proud. He realized that the secret was not more information. It was repetition. Smart repetition. Every day, he chose one sentence and repeated it in 5 ways. Slowly for clarity. Normally for flow. Emotionally for connection. Fast for reaction speed. In real-life context for confidence. One sentence became his friend. His tool. His weapon. He understood something deeply. Repetition was invisible work. No one saw him practicing alone. No one heard the awkward attempts. No one saw the frustration. But everyone heard the result. Fluency wasn't a talent. It was training. Months later, James volunteered to give a short presentation. The old James would have avoided it. The new James saw it as practice. He prepared his content. But more importantly, he prepared his mouth. He practiced sound clusters. He practiced breathing. He practiced rhythm. He practiced emotional tone. When he stood in front of his team, he felt nervous. But he didn't feel silent. He began, "Good morning, everyone." Today I want to share something important. His voice was steady, not perfect, not native-like, but steady, smooth, confident. As he spoke, he didn't think about grammar rules. He didn't think about tense names. He focused on connection, on message, on rhythm. He noticed people listening carefully. He noticed heads nodding. He noticed himself smiling naturally. After the presentation, a colleague said, "James, your English has improved so much." He smiled because he knew the truth. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a secret shortcut. It wasn't an expensive course. It was 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes of warming up. 5 minutes of shadowing. 5 minutes of speaking in the mirror. 5 minutes of repetition with emotion. 5 minutes of discomfort that slowly became power. One evening, he met a new international client. They spoke quickly. They used natural expressions. A few months earlier, James would have frozen. Now, even when he didn't understand everything, he didn't panic. He asked, "Could you repeat that, please, smoothly?" He said, "Let me think for a second, naturally." He bought himself time. He stayed present. He understood that fluency was not speaking without mistakes. It was speaking without fear. And the biggest change was not in his English. It was in his identity. He no longer saw himself as someone who is bad at speaking. He saw himself as someone who trains daily. That identity changed everything. One day, while walking home, he remembered the version of himself who stood silently in meetings. He felt compassion for that version. But he also felt grateful, because that frustration pushed him to train. If James could speak to you right now, he wouldn't give you complicated advice. He would say something simple. Stop collecting lessons. Start training your mouth. He would tell you that your lips need repetition. Your tongue needs practice. Your jaw needs movement. Your ears need rhythm. Your brain needs emotional connection. Your body needs expression. He would tell you that watching videos silently will not build fluency. Reading subtitles will not build reaction speed. Memorizing vocabulary lists will not create confidence. Speaking out loud will. Repeating with purpose will. Training daily will. James learned that fluency is a decision. A daily decision. Not to stay silent. Not to hide behind fear. Not to wait for perfection. He decided, "I will speak even if I make mistakes." And that decision changed his life. Today, when he looks in the mirror, he doesn't ask, "Why can't I speak?" He says, "I built this voice." He knows that the voice he has now was built in quiet mornings, in private rooms, in awkward recordings, in repetitive drills, in moments when he wanted to quit but didn't. His fluency was not born in public. It was built in private. And now, let me ask you something. How many times have you understood English but stayed silent? How many opportunities have passed because you didn't train? How many conversations ended before they began because your mouth froze? You don't need more knowledge. You need movement. You don't need perfection. You need repetition. You don't need a native accent. You need rhythm and courage. James was not special. He was not a genius. He was not naturally confident. He was just tired of being silent. And maybe that's where you are right now. Tired of understanding but not speaking. Tired of watching others express themselves. Tired of feeling invisible in conversations. Then remember this story. Remember the morning James chose to warm up his mouth. Remember the mirror where he faced himself. Remember the first smooth sentence in that meeting. Remember the presentation that once felt impossible. Fluency didn't arrive in one big moment. It arrived in small daily practices. If you don't train, you will stay silent. Not because you are incapable, but because you are untrained. But if you train your mouth to talk, if you repeat daily, if you speak with emotion, if you shadow real speech, if you record yourself, if you embrace discomfort, something powerful will happen. Your voice will rise. Your fear will shrink. Your confidence will grow. And one day, someone will say to you, "Your English is so fluent." They won't see the repetitions. They won't see the mirror sessions. They won't see the awkward beginnings. But you will know. You will know that you didn't wait for fluency. You built it. So now, stand up, take a breath, and say it out loud. I will train my mouth to talk. Say it again. I will speak even if I make mistakes. And one more time. I refuse to stay silent. Because your fluency does not begin when you learn more. It begins when you move your mouth. And just like James, your story is not about English. It's about finding your voice. And your voice is waiting. Before you go, I want to say something from the heart. If James's story inspired you, if you saw yourself in his silence, his struggle, and his breakthrough, then don't let this be just another video you watched and forgot. Your fluency will not change in one day. But your decision can. If you are serious about speaking English confidently, if you truly want to train your mouth, improve your fluency, and build real confidence step by step, then this is your place. Become part of a community that doesn't just learn English, We speak it, we train it, and we live it. And subscribe to this channel and don't stop here. Watch the next video. While listening changes everything.